the customer-driven enterprise. And hey, Jim.
Hey there. Hey, how are you doing? Great to see you, Milan, and everybody online.
I'm doing well.
Nice.
Are you?
It's all good. All good. Yeah, all good. Just Wednesday morning here in New York City.
Excellent. Here in Paris, it's the afternoon. It's gray, but we have some color on our slides that we're going to show. So yeah, just to get started. So hi, I'm Milan. I'm one of the presidents of the Intersection Group. We like to think that we help people create better enterprises. And we're getting today into how to do that with a customer-centric or customer-driven, or basically looking at the enterprise from a customer perspective. And yeah, that's why I'm super happy to have Jim Kalbach joining. And here are a few of your books.
Just a few of them.
Yes. So you want to say quickly who you are?
Yeah, sure. Hey, everybody. Jim Kalbach. I'm currently the chief evangelist at Mural, a digital online whiteboard. Been in design, innovation, enterprise design space for close to 20 years now, and have endeavored to put my experiences into books. I actually wrote 3 full-length books. The first one is called Designing Web Navigation, which is a little dated now. That was 2007, but 2016, Mapping Experiences. Second edition of Mapping Experiences just came out last year. Updated that, refreshed some of the diagrams and things like that. But Jobs to be Done is kind of my new, the new topic that I often lead with as well too, and wrote the Jobs to be Done playbook last year as well too.
Right, and there's a toolkit, right? And this is the second edition of Mapping Experiences, right? I got the
It's the second edition of Mapping Experiences, yeah, the one with the kind of the more white cover. And yeah, on the heels of the Jobs to be Done playbook, we launched an online resource called the Jobs to be Done Toolkit. And there are some free downloads there. It's jtbdtoolkit.com. And there's some free downloads and resources there. But we also have some video courses that you can sign up for. And we also have live courses as well, too. In fact, we're doing a live course next week, and it's not too late to sign up for that. It's 3 days, and we take you through a Jobs to be Done project from beginning to end, focused on job maps, which I think we might talk about today, Milan.
I think so, yeah, because we are actually looking at ways to, make enterprises understand what it is that customers actually want, and I think that's what this technique is about. So yeah, let's dive right into it. I wanted to start the whole session with a picture that I see a lot when people talk about the different fields, that we are in, and that we are kind of a part of, in one foot in, 1 foot out. There are some more, but this is actually a picture that comes from a Forrester, so it's a research company, an article at some time ago, and it basically says, so you have user experience, UX, right? And you have customer experience, and it says user experience is just this very small part of the larger customer experience. And so the user experience of products or apps or devices or websites and so on has to be integrated in this huge, bigger customer experience ensemble. And then some people add that this is actually not Forrester, but there's also often this one where you actually have the UI design is just a part of the UX, and then the UX is just a part of the CX. And I have a profound problem with this.
Yeah.
Do you agree, Jim, that this is a problematic one?
Can I curse on this show?
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, this is just effing bullshit. So that's how much of a problem I have with it. But if you want to talk intelligently about it and not just pound our fists on the table, because I'm just as upset as you are. This makes my blood boil when I see this. Like I just get I get crazy when I see this. And here's why. Let's be a little more careful about this. I think that this is a valid perspective if you're looking at things through the lens of your own company. And you know what it reminds me of, Milan? You ever see those pieces of artwork? You see them hanging in museums sometimes. And when you look at it from one way, it's a square. And then you walk around the side and it's a circle, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the view. If you're inside of a company and you manage a brand and marketing and you have a product that you're trying to go to market with, and you look out of your company, this is what you see.
Yeah.
But if I were to go 90 degrees to the right and I would look at that UX thing would be huge, because you know what, that UX thing, there's a whole ecosystem behind that of what the heck the individual is trying to get done in their lives. That is way bigger than that CX bubble. So if you turn 90 degrees, it would be a completely different thing. And I hope a lot of people on the call, I know you, Milan, you see it from that perspective as well too. This is a very egocentric perspective, because what this is saying is the people that we serve in the market are customers of ours, and we want more customers, and they have a UX and we want better UX, right? It's a very selfish view of the world. And quite frankly, it's an inside-out view of the world. It's not an outside-in view of the world.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. When you really talk about what outside in and inside out means, this is an inside out view. You got to go 90 degrees to get that outside in view, or a 180, I guess it would be better.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. I was wondering as you talked about this, whether it's like how many degrees is it?
Maybe it's 87.5. I don't know. Whatever the artist made that to be. Yeah.
We will talk a little bit later about top tasks, which is the approach from Jerry McGovern to find out, let people vote basically what it is they actually want. And he actually also has an exercise he does with managers sometimes, which is he makes them stand up and after a moment of silence, repeat after him, "We are not the center of the universe."
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, and I think, so I tried to get my head around explaining that. And, one of the examples that I really like to use is this one. This is an app everyone in Paris knows. It's called Velib. Is the bike sharing system from the city. And you see here, you open the app. This is an older version. They fixed that. But first, like in one older version, it showed you all of Paris. And then where there are bike stations and where you are. And that is completely useless, right? So you actually have to pinch, like there's no task, no job, like why would I see like some bike station at the other end of the town? It's not even all of them, right?
Right.
So you zoom in and it shows you around my office, it showed you usually this. So it shows you the station,
right?
And there's 0 everywhere,
right?
And that's because it's on a hill. It's close to Butte Chaumont, so no one is taking bikes there. Everyone's
taking bikes from there. They go downhill.
Yes, exactly. And so this is kind of for me, it's like, now imagine you are a UX designer working either in that company or for that company,
right?
And they say, we need a better app to improve the user experience, and that's kind of exactly this kind of thing, right? We have the customer experience and we have the UX inside for our bike riding people, and then we have the UI of the app, and that's your job. But the user experience,
correct?
The task is, I want to get to the pub,
right? There's this whole ecosystem outside of the CX bubble of human life that you need to understand in order to design the stinking app.
Yes. And so I tried to turn it around. Okay, this is my user experience. I didn't even include the pub. In order to do that, I have, of course, the bikes. I have then the Velib app that we just looked at before, but I also have my route planner. I have maybe
Okay. Hey, can you guys hear me? I think we lost Milan? Okay. Thanks, everybody. I think he was about to say what I'm saying. By the way, we did not plan this, and he set me off. He obviously touched a nerve with these topics here, particularly with me. But we didn't plan this, and I'm glad to see that he and I are very much aligned. Hey, you're back.
Yes. Do you still see the screen? Guess not, right?
We do, yeah.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, we were just I was just extending our rant here a little bit and deepening the rant.
So do you see all those bubbles now?
Now I lost your screen.
Okay. Very good. Let me see how I can get it back.
Oh, you watch Rick Beato? But I was telling the folks, Milan, that you and I didn't plan this at all, and I didn't know that you were going to. Oh, did he just go again? He just went again. Camera off. Screen's gone again. Yeah, he was telling me before we got started that the software is failing him.
Yeah, last time we had a problem with that.
Yeah.
And it's quite annoying.
It's probably good because I would have gone on even more of a rant if we kept at that pace. So you started off on a. You hit a deep nerve, as we say in English, with that one, Milan.
You say, now it says somebody is already sharing the screen.
It is not me.
Yeah, it's also not me. Yeah. So let me try to get the screen sharing back, and at the same time, so we can kind of make the point. So all these companies, all these services, all these entities try actually to be part of our lives, right? And they are competing for attention in our user experience.
Correct.
Of using those companies, using those enterprises to do something. But the way that they view or tend to view the world is, well, we have us, and then we have our products and services, and then we have the customers, and then and then we have the small UX department. Yeah.
Right. I agree. Now, just to be clear, though, and to be fair, again, I don't want to just rant here. I want to be fair. That is a valid view of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think any business enterprise, large or small, even individuals who are in business as freelancers or whatever, have to think about their go-to-market motion, how they attract customers, the customer journey, and to look at the view from that perspective. You need to look at the artwork from that perspective, but you also need to go around 180 degrees. My point is just let's be very, very clear about what we're talking about when we put UX inside of that CX bubble, and that's a very self-centered view of the world. Let's just be clear about it. I think it's a good view to have, but let's not say, oh yeah, we're customer-centric. You might be customer-centric, but you're certainly not human-centric with that view.
Exactly, yeah. And I'm currently trying to upload a PDF of the presentation. The next thing I wanted to talk about, and maybe we can try to do it without the stuff to look at, is so what is actually, when we talk about experience, what is that?
Yeah.
According to you?
It's a good question. I very often ask that in my presentations. In fact, I have this slide. What is an experience? How do you define experience? And I ask folks, it's like, what is your definition of the word experience? Right? Maybe we can ask the group right now. Anybody got a good definition of what experience means? I bet, Milan, that there are people on this call that have experience in their job title: experience designer, customer experience, something or other, right? What's the definition of experience when we get down to it? I can see the slides again.
That's excellent. I just tried to trick the system. Now it's a PDF.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, but so you get all these, definitions, and it's not about defining it in words. It's about understanding what experience is.
Yes.
And one of the best definitions I have is shit that happens to humans. Right.
Right. Exactly.
Because I mean, it's like life. It's like perceiving the world out there. Right. Yeah. The sum of all the interactions, thoughts, and feelings that happens to people over time. Yeah. Yes. Lawrence has got a good one there. But it's not even touch points, right? Because touch points implies that there is a service provider involved. We could talk about human experiences that we have as well, too. And I see it even broader. And I think when you broaden that perspective, and I think this is the point you're trying to make, Milan, a little bit, is that when you broaden your definition of experience, it needs to be a human-centric view to be truly outside in. You need to look at what people are trying to do. They're trying to get to the pub, right?
Yes.
And there might be many ways to do that. And there's many things along the way. And guess what? It's not about touch points with you. It's about all the things that they're trying to accomplish along the way, all the steps that they take to get from wherever they are to the pub in that moment.
Exactly. So I put here a little bit of some CXs, right, that all live on my phone, like some customer experiences. Of course, you could argue they are also user experiences of these apps, but the real use here is the bikes.
Right.
And
was that say XX there? Is that XX?
Yes, XX, because I didn't know what to put. Am I really a user of the bike lane there? Am I a customer of the city, or am I more a citizen? Is it maybe citizen experience? Is it maybe
I say human experience or
driver,
individual?
human? Yes,
why can't we be humans, Milan?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because business doesn't like humans. They like customers because customers pay them. Humans are a nuisance.
Exactly. Yeah, and so I was just about to show, so experience is one of the bubbles that we use when we look at enterprises, and we put there this definition. What is our role? What do we do for people? Which is a little bit of a self-centric definition, but it's because this is a model about the enterprise. So to your point, it is a valid perspective.
Yes.
So, but what we try to say is they are people. They live a life, and what we try to do with this, with our brands, with our products, is to define what are we doing for them, and how are we appearing in their lives.
Yes.
Here's
the thing, though. Here's the thing. Here's the punchline behind the argument, is that can be a source of growth, right? A lot of organizations see that as, we want to increase satisfaction or reduce bugs or things like that, or have this nice fuzzy, warm feeling, and everybody does a group hug and sings Kumbaya. That's not what it's about. It's about sources of innovation for growth, right? And I think, so everybody on the call, I think we need to start using the word growth more, to be honest with you, because now there's like product-led growth and growth designers and growth hacking and all of those things. Those are all those egocentric views of the world from the other view that we're talking about, which is valid, right? But a lot of business owners and a lot of business leaders think about growth coming from that, not coming from what we're talking about, Milan. And I think what we need to do is not frame this as, human experiences are important. Understanding human experiences is a source of growth for you.
Yeah, and it might even be, personal growth of your employees, which again is an experience of someone.
Absolutely, a growth of your brand, a growth of loyalty, a growth of money, a growth of market share, right? There's all kinds of growth sources that can come out of observing the human experience as such.
Exactly, yeah. So I tried to put in here, what so the one that we put in the description is actually like one level down from what matters to people.
Yeah.
And then what role do we play? And with that role, how do we create value for them?
Yep.
And then finally, and this is where the touch points, the channels, all of these things, come in. This is where we can then dissect this and say, okay, what are the tasks? We call it tasks in our model. You can call it jobs. We can talk about whether it's something else, something different, something like the same, similar. We don't know. But then people go through a journey, and then they. And I actually, to be honest, this is part of the language that we are working on called Edgy, and like I said, a language to describe enterprises. And usually for the mode of interaction or where people get in touch with enterprises, it's called touch point or channel. But mostly in practice, when we talk about designing with these things or building an inventory, we actually talk about apps and websites and physical stores and I don't know what, like things, right? Yeah. So I have some trouble finding the right term for the language for this thing, this mode, this context, because ultimately it's about context, right? What context are you in? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, I have an opinion there. Wolfgang just mentioned, jobs to be done. I've associated this human-centric view of experience with jobs to be done, because that's a field that's kind of already out there. There's rich history there, actually, decades-long history. People have done a lot of things. I'm not a consultant, so I'm not peddling jobs to be done. If you want to relabel it something else, I'm fine with that, as long as it's the mindset that's the most important. The thing, though, that I like about jobs to be done as a term is that it actually came from the business community. It's Clayton Christensen and stuff like that. So I feel that you can actually use that back, say, listen, this is the MBA people at Harvard or whatever, saying this, right? So I found traction in being able to associate the human-centered view of the world, this other perspective, with the business world to get people's attention by using the phrase jobs to be done. That's just my experience.
It makes sense. I think the main reason why we use task is because I have been in situations where people have been incredibly confused when we use the term job because they are thinking about the job market.
Yep. I've had that happen as well too. Yes, and of course it doesn't translate very well into other languages. In German, the word job actually means you're what you do, right? So you use the English word job, but it already has a meaning, and it doesn't have all the different connotations that it does in English. In English we use the word job to mean a task, as well as what I do for a living. So in German, it's just what you do for a living, and then you say, wait, Jim's talking about jobs to be done, but he's not talking about my work. So it gets confusing in other languages as well too. But I'll take that. I understand.
I mean, I've seen interpretations where people say, okay, job is the bigger one, task is the smaller one, which is fine. If you want to build this hierarchy, fine, no problem.
I agree. Right. Yeah.
And I also dug up this old friend.
Yeah, Chris Risden. Yeah, Chris Risden.
Yes, because it's still when people Google journey map or experience map, this is the picture, and I think it's in your book still, right? In the mapping experience one, is it still?
Yeah, I must have included it. Yeah, I mean, just it's so. It was kind of like the example that was out there, and to Adaptive Path's credit, Adaptive Path was the company that Chris Risden worked at the time with Jesse James Garrett and Peter Merholtz and lots of other folks. They were very, very generous in sharing their work and in writing about it. So early on, when you would Google like experience map, this thing popped up. And I think it was because they were so generous in sharing these things. And it's become kind of the poster child, as we say. It's kind of the example. So I felt almost like obligated from a historical perspective to re-include it in the second edition.
Yes. Yeah, and we use it also because it's actually about Rail Europe, which I'm actually not sure if that exists, but we use a fictional railway company for our examples called Intersection Railways. So we were actually able to steal some of the data from this one, except of course it's from 2011, and there has been some change actually in that industry over the last 10 years, like things like competition coming in, actors becoming like less state-owned conglomerates and more companies and so on. And then, of course, the way people move around, with all these apps, with all these things. So you have actually printing paper tickets in there, which people don't do anymore. And this is maybe also an important point, right? The job or the task to getting from A to B is the same, but you wouldn't actually print the paper ticket anymore unless you are afraid of the battery of your phone, which you might be.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And I would argue this is a more human-centric view of the world, even though they are looking at it a little bit. If you look at this diagram closely, and I know the folks on the line really can't see this, because they can't read it. It's a little bit of a blend of those two perspectives. But I think fundamentally the way that this map is organized, and that's the thing when you start to visualize this stuff, you need to look at like what's the basis of organization here, and it's chronological, so that's the basis of organization, and that chronology is not how do they find me, it's how do I take a trip, right? Yes. And then they overlay the company perspective on top of that. But this is fundamentally taking a view of I'm going on a trip by rail in Europe. What is that from beginning to end? Right. So it does bring with it that perspective shift.
Exactly. And so what we often do with Edgy is then we zoom in a little bit so that we can read it. So this is just a part of the map. And then look at, what are the elements that we find in that map, right? And so we have, and this is the round ones is what we call tasks. Get help, talk to your friends where you want to go. We have some channels like print and web and phone and so on. And we have some journey steps. And then we could basically map that out and say, okay, this is a model that we could put actually into a connected model, right? And say, this is this is our view on experience. But one thing that I want to mention is the moment that you do that, and the moment that you maybe also try to dissect a customer or passenger's experience into these distinct elements, and you try to prioritize them. So here the color code actually refers to, maybe we did a top task identification survey and we found that the green ones were.
I think he froze just again. Oh, you're back.
Okay. So I was just talking about that you could actually, run a top task identification survey, and then you would get something like this. Do you see it? Like a distribution?
Yeah, it's a little small.
Yeah. And you see which tasks are the most important ones.
Yeah.
And all of that is, so in this case, the customers basically tell you, and you get a vote from the customers, and usually you get this very strong sense of hierarchy here. 4 tasks that are the most important ones, and then there are 5 more or 6 more here, and with those you get actually half of the vote. And so by dissecting the experience into elements and also getting direct quantitative customer feedback, but also qualitative research, you get a sense. But then I think there's a risk there doing that, which I tried to illustrate with this picture. So it's a. Do you see the picture?
Yes, we do. It's
excellent. So the
train cabin.
Yeah. So the left one shows a Finnish night train.
Right.
And you see they have these bunk beds. And you have on the left you have the booking screen from yesterday, and it said, so if I want to go from Helsinki to Rovaniemi, I have to change in Tikkurila, and then it's a 10-hour 50 minutes ride with the night train. And I depicted there the cabin, but actually it also says there's no cabin available anymore, you will have to seat.
Right.
That's the actual experience if you want to go from Helsinki to Tikkurila with them. While on the right, you have a vision that we kind of adapted from a startup that currently wants to turn challenge basically the aviation industry in Europe by offering kind of rolling hotels. Like you are in, I don't know, in Warsaw, you want to go to Paris, and the app basically says you're Paris tonight, and you book your bed, and it looks like this, it looks like, nice. So the task is the same. The job is from getting from A to B, and on the map and on the voting of the top task or the job model, it might actually look like the same, but then the experience isn't. So Jim, I wanted to ask you, do you have any opinion how to get the rich background and contextual nature and personal nature of experience into these maps and models?
Well, I have two things there. One, and I'll just stick with jobs to be done because there's a little chat going on there, and we brought it up. So the first thing, within the framework of jobs to be done, you move beyond just the task and you look at what we call outcomes. That's a synonym for a need, which is a metric. It's a perceptive metric in the mind of the individual on how well you got that job done. So yes, I want to get from Warsaw to Helsinki, but then there are criteria for how well I get that done. Cheap as possible or in the most comfort as possible. Those are things that I can extract from research, and then actually prioritize those for different target groups. Right, because a student on a €50 a day budget is probably not going to ride in the one on the right, but they might ride on the one in the left, right? So you're going to segment based on those what I call outcomes. But then there's also within the jobs to be done framework, we also look at emotional jobs and social jobs as well too, when we prioritize all of those. So we not only prioritize the tasks or what you call tasks, we also prioritize the measures of success, the emotions, and the social aspects as well too. And all of that then feeds into the solution. So when you start showing these screens, Milan, you're actually then showing, okay, what should the solution be? So this perspective that we talked about you have to fill in the gap between understanding that perspective and then what's the ideal solution. And there are things that you don't just go from a task analysis to the solution. There are other things that you have to do as well too. Again, the jobs to be done framework gives you some of that to fill that in. The other thing is, going a little bit old school. Contextual inquiry. I used to do ethnographic. I called it commercial ethnography, because it's not real ethnography, right? But going out and just watching people, like do it yourself. Take that trip yourself, Milan, right? Go watch people on the platforms and that kind of things, and really understand that experience from a more empathetic standpoint. Not yet. Can we analyze this stuff? Yeah. But if you add a little bit more of the empathy from more ethnographic type of research to the analytic part, that's how you would arrive at these solutions.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I just wanted to show one scary model, which is this one, which I found on the website of Indy Young. Actually, it's less scary now because I lost the animations. It's actually like at this size, it's several, it's many, like 100 meters to the right or so, because they found so many tasks and jobs. This is actually for hiring people, for a public service roles in the US, and you stack all of them up. And this is, so I know that this is a mental model. Then there are job maps, then there are journey maps.
Yeah.
Do you see them as something very distinct, or are they kind of variants of the same thing for you?
I think they're related in some ways. In fact, one of the case studies in the Mapping Experience book talks about the project team that I was working with at Citrix, where we actually did a mental model project. That was the initial research, but then we did jobs to be done analysis based on that. So the information is so close, you can actually go from one to the other. And I think they're close because of that. They have the similar perspective. So the mental models is a specific techniques that gets you out of that. I see the world as customers of mine, then rather I see the world as human beings interacting in their daily lives. And a mental model does that. So does jobs to be done, maybe top tasks and some other things as well too. There's not too many methods out there that help you with that perspective shift, but mental model diagramming is one of them. It's just a different way to do it. And I've done lots of mental model projects following her book. I mean, the great thing about Indy's book is you can go from page 1 to page, whatever it is, 200, and you can do it. It's like all right there. It's very prescriptive and instructive. So it's great to do that. I have found though, and I think you were hinting at this, that it can be daunting. It can be scary. You said scary. It was the word you said. And I've gone into like business leaders' offices with this mental model diagram, thinking that I was going to be impressive to them. Hey, look at all this research that I did. And they were like, give me 2 PowerPoint slides. This is way too much detail for me. Right. Yeah. So there's a danger if you don't frame it right. I'm not saying it's not bad and good. It can be good, but you need to frame it in. This is an analytic tool. This is like a deep X-ray. This is like a CAT scan of the human experience. And we need to go in there with a fine-tooth comb and find our opportunities. If your audience isn't ready for that, it's going to look scary. Right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And I had the same actually. I'm also a huge fan of the technique and of the model. I also like that the x-axis actually doesn't have to be time. You can have it doesn't have to be a journey kind of flow. But I've also seen this happen actually in some project, like where you get to a level of detail and you get an amount of tasks and motivations, and then also let's maybe talk a little bit about the bottom side here, which is what should we do about all those things that we found that people might want to achieve with our help, right?
Correct.
And I know that in your book you're using the term alignment diagram for that, so maybe. I think this is
I mean, it was a realization that I had when I was looking at this, her method versus this is Indy's method here. This is the mental model diagram. And then I heard about these things called customer journey maps. And then I was learning about service blueprints. And I was like, what's the difference between these things? And when would I use one over the other? And what I recognized was there was a pattern there. There was a pattern of diagnosis. You basically want to diagnose things. What's the experience? And there are different ways to describe experience. Indy's is one way. Customer journey map is another way. And then what do we have to do? Right? It's very often top and bottom. And what I started to realize is that what you're trying to do is align the experience to your service provision. Right? So I started calling these things alignment diagrams. fun fact about that, and you can find it, I think the blog post is still out there. Originally, Indy Young wanted to call her diagrams alignment diagrams. There's an old blog post of, yes. And then she renamed it to mental models. There's a blog post from her called Alignment Diagrams, where she talks about these things as alignment diagrams, which probably inadvertently influenced my thinking about it as well, too. But I, because it was kind of subconscious. I was like, what are we going to call these things? Alignment diagram. And then I found that blog post, and I think I saw that before. So it might have influenced me. I'm not sure. But in any event, she used to call these things alignment diagrams.
Yeah, and I read that a long time ago. I think even before your book came out, in a paper that you wrote with another American European that went back with
Paris,
Paul Kahn.
Right? Yeah, Paul Kahn. Yeah.
Yes, and I was a big fan, and I think that influenced actually my book Intersection a lot.
Right.
That thinking, that we can actually align what we should be doing as an organization with the experience and the journeys and the tasks and jobs that people we are designing for and with actually want to get done.
Correct.
And that led, I think, ultimately now, I mean, this is now like a 12-year-old version of this thinking, where we say, okay, we have the experience of people, which also might include employees, right? So it doesn't
absolutely.
It's or suppliers or partners.
Correct.
And so it's what's our role in their lives, and with that we can decide what should be our architecture. So how are we operating? How do we organize ourselves? But also, why are we actually bothering?
Yeah. I think you were going to get into purpose. You froze again, Milan. All right. He's back. No. He's not back. Just want to give him another second to reconnect. I think he was going to go into purpose. Not 100% sure. He's back. You have to edit that out of the YouTube video afterwards.
Yes, it will be awesome. So I was saying, like, how, you were talking about purpose. That's the last thing I heard.
Yeah.
So what's the purpose that we actually, as an enterprise, go after?
Right.
And then how do we tell the story as a brand? And how does that lead to, how do we organize ourselves? Who does what, right? And then how can we operationalize this?
Yes.
And build this into products, and this, like, so the way that we in Edgy chunk the world looks like this, So we have the customer or other people's tasks and journeys and channels, but then we need to build our capabilities, our processes, our organization. We need to express our purpose and so on. And so I tried actually to align our view to the alignment diagrams, which then looked like this.
but it's upside down, though, because experience should be on the top, right?
Yes.
Okay. But it works if you flip it. Here's the problem. Here's the problem that I see. Every company starts in the bottom, because every company starts with a group of people, founders, sitting around a table with a napkin.
Yes.
They observe a problem in the world and they say, I think we have a solution for it. So they always start in the bottom, but then they move to the upper two and they stay up there. They never go back down to the bottom. Yes. They just stay in what's my go-to-market and what's my solution. And they just continue try to optimize go-to-market and optimize the solution. They don't find opportunity back from where it came from originally.
Exactly. And I think this is why one way we want to try to make this different is by introducing a loop, like a continuous loop that you go into all of these facets and back and forth, and you align, right? And you have maybe this kind of model that you see in organizations, like of the org chart.
Right. Yeah.
And you might have a model of all the products and services. This is like, again, a railway example, right? Where you have loyalty cards and fares and different kinds of services for different customers.
Totally.
But ultimately, we need to align those things. And unfortunately, the way right now many of our clients go about trying to align look like this.
Yeah.
Have you seen this?
This is a safe thing. Yeah, I've seen diagrams like this. Yeah.
It's also a scary diagram, but you see
it's
that
very scary. Yeah, right.
You see that there is a place for customer centricity, design thinking, and even lean UX. But it's kind of competing for attention with everything else going on.
Right.
And often, I think what you said, we look once maybe at the experience, and then we actually, you said we actually start with our dream as a team.
Right.
And I'm the CMO, you're the CTO, and this is what we do. And then we build a product. And then at the moment we have a product, we go and say, do you like this? Which is our kind of way of doing maybe what we would call UX. Right. And people say no. And then we change it. But then it's there, right? And then we scale. And then we never go back.
Correct. Correct. Yes. And a lot of what I've been talking about in my career and with journey mapping, as well as with jobs to be done, is go back to the original source of inspiration, which was observing the world and human beings in the world. Yeah. And I actually have in my jobs to be done book, I actually have a figure 8 in there as well too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where the center is keep doing this over, go back and keep doing it over again. Right.
Right. Yeah. And I actually, from one of your presentations, I found this map.
Yes.
Which I actually liked a lot because it's from your work at Mural, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So it's what kind of map would you say is this?
I would say this is a job map.
Okay.
It's fairly bare bones. By the way, one reason why I also like job maps, again, I've done mental model diagram projects, full-on mental model diagram projects, and a job map has the same perspective, but it has there's different techniques that you use to get to a job map. The thing about a job map is you can show this to a CEO or you can show this to a business leader on one slide and they won't get over it. It's not scary, right? It has a very similar diagnostic effect because what we're trying to do is map something out. We're trying to map out this perspective, not against ourselves, but against the real world. You're trying to map that out and then be able to pinpoint where your opportunities are. And you can do that with a mental model diagram, but you can also do it with a job map. And a job map is a little less daunting, I think. Right. But basically a job map, it's chronological, so it gets confused with customer journey maps and some of those other things. But it's not a customer journey map because we are not looking at how that individual comes to my company, uses my product at all. We're just looking at in your language, task that they're trying to get done, and how do we describe that task in a very functional way. So a job map doesn't include the outcomes, the emotions, and the social aspects, like I said. The analysis of those things comes in a second step in jobs to be done. So this is just how do you get this objective completed from point A to point B, right? So you define the point A and define the point B, and then you fill it in with what we call job steps. So this is actually a map of job steps, in this case, for conducting a working session or a workshop with a client. So our job performer was a consultant conducting a working session with a client. I did this for Mural. Nowhere here will you see anything about a whiteboard or Mural or payment system or anything like that. It says things like get material. One of these sticky notes, I think, says get materials ready, right? Yes. And what you can do is you can ask yourself, one of my rules of thumb for creating a job map is you got to ask yourself, what would they have done 50 years ago, right? And guess what? 50 years ago, a consultant doing a working session with a client would have gotten materials ready. It might have been like a chart, like on a little easel, like they pull out, like in Mad Men, right? They'd pull out like a chart and put it on the easel. And then 30 years ago, it would have been PowerPoint presentation, right? And then, or slideshow or something like that. And then PowerPoint. And now these days they might be using Mural. I don't care. That's all the technology. That's the solution. The thing is, the job step there at that point is get materials ready for my presentation. That's just one of the job steps. So jobs to be done comes with very, very strict rules about how you're formulating things. So you expunge any reference to technology. Expunge. There's no reference to technology here. So we can go back 50 years and say, how did a consultant conduct a workshop with a client? And it's pretty much going to be this, right? The thing about that, Milan, is that it also future-proofs your thinking. Because guess what? in 5 years from now and 10 years from now, maybe everybody's wearing a VR headset, but they're still going to get materials ready for use. They're still going to give a warm up and an introduction. They're still going to do a synthesis. Those are some of the sticky notes on here, right?
Yeah.
So by being technologically agnostic, we future-proof our thinking.
And just to say 2 words about the stuff at the bottom. So what's
The
happening
bottom
there?
half. So just like a mental model diagram, you have okay, let's describe the world independent of technology. Then what you can do is do a diagnostic and say, what should we be providing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in Indy's technique, you actually list features. This was a workshop activity that I did. And again, that's why I like a job map, because you can bring it into a team and work with it, right? Because the job map itself doesn't give you any answers. It's the conversation that you have. So I came up with this activity. It's an activity to get conversations going, which was, okay, now let's compare our solution back to that technologically agnostic solution and give ourselves school grades. So in America, we have A, B, C, D, F, right? And we basically said, how well do we do at each one of those columns? And this was a group of 4 people. So those sticky notes are how well we graded it. And through the conversation, what we started to notice is we're pretty good here. We're not so good there. We're good again here. We're not so good here, right? What that does is it gives us a rationale for where we're going to focus our attention to fix, right? If we're going to go out the door with new product features or a new marketing campaign or customer success motions, let's fix those 2 spots, because the theory holds that if we can help people get their job done better, they will be more attracted to our solution. So therefore, if I can find where our solution is weak against the job, you have the job and then our solution. If I can find those weak spots, I'll increase the pull, the market pull. It's basically product market fit, Milan, is what we're trying to do, is get our product to fit the market better, right? This was we didn't do any research. This was just us using our guts, right? But it's a very simple thing. You can do in like 90 minutes. Say, here's my research. Let's do an analysis of that. Okay, let's prioritize our efforts there and get everybody aligned. Get everybody aligned. That's the important part.
Yeah, and you see here again, you have the alignment diagram structure. Like you have the experience on top, and you have
and the thing down at the bottom. Correct.
We're actually using the same in this model, which is our version of the service blueprint, where you have the customer tasks, channels, and journey on top. It's the same that we looked at before, right? And we have the products that we provide in the middle. And then we have our organization lined up here, like who is doing what, and we have our capabilities. Which of these capabilities are actually necessary in order to produce the products or services that then serve each of these tasks. And I put Andy Pollain's book here. So again, all of these maps, they are they're different variants, different things for different situations. But I want to, all of them look quite squarish, and I wanted to maybe finish before we have 3 minutes or so for questions or 5, and apologize for the technical difficulties. I wanted to finish with one idea that we are pursuing right now for alignment diagrams, and I showed you that, Jim, before, which is this idea of the enterprise on a napkin. Because in the end, with service blueprints and with these kind of things, we often get to the what do we do for people, right? Based on their tasks and experience and so on. We get to how can we do that, but we not often actually get to the point where we challenge, okay, but why are we actually doing this? Like, how do these discoveries challenge our purpose?
Yeah, agreed.
And we collected some of the purposes here for our railway company. So punctuality, safety, cost efficiency, environment, bringing people together.
Right.
Which of these matter? Yes. And the enterprise of on a napkin basically looks like this. Like we take our value cycle, we build infrastructure, we develop and market railway products, we operate the railway network, and then we improve and we put our goals there.
Correct.
We also put what we learned about our customers, which looks like a snake here. So what are they? What are the jobs that they want to do as a passenger, but maybe also as a contractor? Here's some other roles on here.
Right.
And from there, what do we need to do, which is our capabilities.
Yeah, totally.
And a point to Annika, who invented this model, is one point that got challenged a lot in the beginning, but what I think is really the strength of this map compared to all the more squarish matrix-like ones is that it is round and it is a flow. It's a cycle.
Yeah.
It shows basically the cycle of the enterprise.
Yep, I like it.
You know,
and it's nice, yeah.
Yeah. But would you say this is an alignment diagram as well?
I would, yeah. I mean, one of the reasons why you have these, like, it's like a table, like a matrix, is because that allows you to add more information more easily and to expand and contract. One of the problems, it's a logistical problem as the map maker, is to be able to get it all kind of to fit nicely in there. And you might feel like you're missing some important information because you got to squeeze it into the spot that you got there. So I think the form of the visualization needs to be meaningful and purposeful. And I think it's very purposeful here as well too. But I definitely would call this a type of alignment diagram. The thing that struck me, and this will be the last thing I guess I'll say, is that in the middle there, the purposes that you have, those are customer purposes. Those are aspirations. Nowhere did I see on your sticky notes, increase revenue to $1 billion or, grow market share to whatever X, right? Business people like talk about X. I want to 10X this or, stuff like that, right?
It's a really interesting point.
The point I want to make is the business purpose is the customer aspirations. I call them aspirations. That should be the center of your circle, is the customer aspirations.
I agree. We actually had a version where we had the customer at the center, but it for the reasons of the center of the universe, it actually didn't really work well in the boardroom. But I completely agree that in the end, if there's, and that's kind of the underlying theory, I think of enterprise design. If all of these things are coherent, then the whole enterprise will move in a direction. So if the customer aspirations are kind of the same as our purposes, and our capabilities are kind of, those that connect those, then our enterprise will work well.
I agree. And a lot of, customer-centric efforts are just very superficial. We're not going to change our financial model. We're not going to change the way engineering works. We're not going to change the business incentives and things like that. But let's be more customer-centric. And then it's just superficial little theater. It's customer-centric theater that happens on the fringes of the organization, only to have business leaders a year later say, why aren't we customer-centric?
Yes. Cool. I will. One question to you, Jim. Do you have 5 more minutes after the hour?
No, actually, I think I might have to go, but let me take a look. Let's continue talking.
Because then I will actually ask people for questions now, and I will do the wrap up afterwards when you're gone. So if you have any questions, please. So the copy of the PDF will be sent to everyone. Yes. Any questions?
Okay.
So Maxime is saying maybe it would be valuable on these kind of maps to highlight what may not happen if nothing changes, and the risks rather than seeing the potential and the opportunities.
Yeah. Well, here's what I find when you have circular diagrams, and again, this is kind of a space problem here, not space problem, but it's just a logistical problem here, is that very often when you have a diagram like this, because it's closed in, it doesn't have open rows. What you need to be thinking about are layers. So what I could imagine on top of this, Milan, is like, let's take a slice and look at like what not to do. That would be a layer that you'd overlay on this. Okay, let's look at finances on top of this, right? So you look at the financial thing and overlay it on top of this.
What needs to change so that UX designers and IT architects can finally co-design better enterprises together and not stay in the bubbles, Jim?
What needs to change? I mean, I think it's a fundamental mind shift change. I think it has to be the way that organizations think about business these days has to fundamentally change. And that's what we're trying to do. We're doing it brick by brick or by nudging. Like we're just kind of nudging the mess, as they say, right? That's a phrase. Like it's a big, businesses are going to be businesses because the way that businesses think about operating, I think, is in jeopardy moving forward in the future. But we're still operating in the old world. We're still operating in the post-industrial age world of management. And I think that mindset really needs to change. And we're in a phase of transition, so it's going to be frustrating. It's frustrating.
Yes.
I really admire your endurance, Milan, to just keep going at this enterprise thing. Because a lot of people are like, I don't want to deal with that anymore. They're never going to change. But it's nudges, it's steps, small steps.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, this is a wonderful transition, of course, and also a tradition now. So thank you so much, Jim.
Sure. Thanks for having me. I hope I didn't rant too much for you.
No, I think, I was counting on that.
Yeah, I think Tom asks transition to what? I would say look at Frederick Laloux and read things like Brave New Work, and look at new forms of organizations. They talk about self-managing organizations that are purpose-driven. The other thing I would look at is the Shared Value Initiative, which actually came from the business community, where purpose becomes the center for not only the organization, but also for society. And movements like Shared Value, moving towards teal organizations as well too. I think that's and this isn't because we want a warm fuzzy feeling. That's how organizations will survive in the future, is with a new mindset about what even an organization is and how it works and how it serves the people that it serves and how it serves society, how it serves employees as well too. I think that's shifting. Yeah.
Does that also imply a shift in the mindset of the designers, the experienced designers?
I think so. Yeah. I think so. I work a lot with designers, come to my courses and things like that. Like, yeah, we're customer centric, and then I, run them through some of my exercises, and there's some of the people that get it wrong the first very often as well too. I think we need to change our mindset too. I need to change my mindset, because I'm, in the company that I'm in right now, I still have a very kind of traditional. It's hard to get that out of like habit, to kind of change things.
Yes. Yeah.
Listening to Clapping by Steve Reich. A great song, by the way. I love Steve Reich.
All right. Yeah. So I will wrap up now. Feel free to fly away to your next call, Jim.
Yeah. Okay.
Or whatever commitment you have, because it's already over time. And thank you so much for joining.
I hope it was helpful for you, Milan, and I hope it was interesting for folks on the line to listen to us talking.
I hope so too. So,
yeah. Cheers, everybody.
Bye, Jim. So, just to let you know, so all of this was an event of our growing community. You see here we have enterprise designers from various backgrounds. So all the experienced service and business designers, enterprise and business architects, and everyone else is welcome to join us and work on this. We are the intersection group. We work on a toolkit that integrates some of the techniques. We have a community. We have a conference series. We're working on digital tools. We do publications, like my first book called Intersection, the book Enterprise Design Patterns that talks about how to do enterprise design in practice, mixing together human-centric, systems-oriented, architectural thinking, and also soft skills. This is a event in a series of events. Next week, we have Ernestine, the Enterprise Architect, done by Wolfgang. We have also a webinar about the story of an organization designer. If you want to learn more about the Milky Way map that I showed, there's a webinar on that on the 9th of March, and the Edgy language. And then there's also one on some of the patterns in the pattern book. And if you would like to get involved, please join us on our Slack channel. Everyone is welcome. And thank you so much for joining today and even staying till 3 minutes past. And see you next time.